Hi everyone, my name's Janine Perez and welcome to the next episode of Made for Marketers, the show where marketing leaders share their smarts in strategy and execution to help you power the customer journey and deliver growth. In today's episode, we'll be talking about multinational marketing and leading regional teams. And joining us to share her smarts is Tanya Mushtaq, Head of Marketing for Asia Pacific and Japan at Boomi, a Dell Technologies company. In her time at Boomi, Tanya has contributed to over 50% year-on-year growth in revenue across the region. And not only that, she's also developed a world-class leading customer advocacy program and customer reference program. Thanks for joining us, Tanya. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Janine. Thank you for having me.
So tell me, the prospect of running marketing across a region, particularly such a large one as Asia Pacific and Japan, can often seem quite exotic. The travel, the different kind of stakeholders, etc. But you and I both know that it's a very complex job, managing global stakeholders and balancing those priorities with the needs of your regional teams as well, not to mention working around the clock. So how do you navigate all of that?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I learned in this role and all the other regional roles I've done is that sleep is highly overrated. So if you have kids, you know that, right? So first thing I would say as a marketer anywhere, and it doesn't matter whether you have a regional role or a national or a global role, you have to eliminate 3 words from your vocabulary: all, everywhere, and everyone.
Right.
Because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So you think macro and you think the business objectives, but then you think at the micro level. So what do your stakeholders want? Where are they located? What are the regional nuances? What are the strengths and weaknesses of your team, who you have, and how are they delivering on the asks of the whole of the organization? Yeah. And you can't treat them all as one, and because you have to build trust. And trust is more important than competence. So how do you build trust? You acknowledge people, you acknowledge their cultural nuances, you respect them. And then you set yourself up as a credible human who's going to work with them, not just as a marketer, but as a human.
Yeah. And how do you find, so that I can see how that works really well in terms of managing your teams and building that trust with your teams. In terms of managing up the chain then, and in your instance, not only at a global and other regional levels, so whether you're talking to US or whether you're talking across Middle East or other regions, but also, Boomi is obviously part of the Dell Technologies company, so you've got that extra level of stakeholder management. So how do you also manage up the chain?
Again, it's all about just understanding that you're working with humans.
Yeah.
So everyone is doing the same thing. Everyone has a challenge. Everyone has a story. You can't just expect somebody to deliver something for you that you want at the time that you want. Cut people some slack and also reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. Like when I have to reach out to one of my executives in the US, I don't hesitate. It's about being respectful, sending a simple message. And if they say, well, you can go through somebody else to get there, they're not being disrespectful. It's just that they don't have the time or the bandwidth to give it the attention that it deserves. What your ask deserves. So understand people.
That's a good point. And actually it's a great insight, not only in terms of running marketing operations internally, but just generally from a B2B perspective. How do you humanize how you communicate, how you position yourself, how you message, and understand that essentially when you break everything down, where it's humans talking to humans, and so kind of have that level of empathy that enables you to build that trust and build that relationship. And it sounds like what you're saying there is also keep those lines of communications open, and really, build the trust based on open communication. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was working in change management a while back, and the key to effective change management is constant communication at the right level with the right stakeholders, because you have to show them what's in it for them. What's in it for me? If I'm going to do something for you and give up my time to do something, is it delivering for the business? Is it delivering for the department? How are we going to provide a benefit by doing something.
Yeah, great points. And I think, yeah, that constant, what's in it for me is so important across any forms of communication, really. So I think that's a great tip actually for people to take on board, and particularly where managing multiple stakeholders, always thinking about how you position a message to a different audience so that they understand what their role in it is. So that's sort of more at a regional level. When we break it down and you think about particularly your region, APJ, Asia Pacific and Japan, for those that don't recognise that acronym, it's a very diverse region. Sometimes people think of Asia as one region, but we know there are so many nuances within Asia and vastly different markets, different levels of sophistication in those markets, particularly at a marketing level in terms of the different areas. So how do you balance the need for consistency, brand consistency, program consistency, but also ensure that you deliver local relevance?
It's actually not easy. So as you said, APJ, or Asia Pacific and Japan, is probably the most diverse region. We have different languages, different cultural norms. We have different levels of understanding, different challenges, right? So it is important to go a little bit more, as I said, think macro, but act micro. Understand that your big brand is visually recognizable. Yes, that's the first step. So everyone recognizes your brand. Everyone recognizes that message that you are continually repeating across, because it shows your value proposition. It tells them exactly what you do very clearly. So if you're going to be very clear and very concise and consistent, so you're constantly repeating that message, that is creating that brand. But then under that brand, how do you create relevance for different countries, for different subsets of verticals, right, within that? And it's important to then make sure the key message is repeated throughout with a relevance built into each message, right? And it's very important to make sure that when your audience is reading something, and as I said, don't think of everyone everywhere, that they understand and they can relate to it with the challenges that they are facing. So you do have to do a bit of research. You do have to listen. You have to go and explore and do your homework, basically.
And so tell me, for marketers who might be thinking of embarking on a national or regional role, what sort of advice would you give them? How should they prepare themselves? What practical things can they be doing to really improve their chances of success in a role like that?
Well, I'm going to say something maybe a little bit controversial here, but don't think yourself as a B2B or a B2C marketer. Yeah. Marketing is now about B2Me. So for the first time in modern history, we have 5 different generations working together. So from people born, traditionally before 1946 prior, and now Gen Z, who have reached a level of almost a conscious competence, right? So they're starting to get into roles where they are starting to influence the C-suite or management, and they bring themselves a very different ideology, a very different set of values and beliefs. So if you are going to embark into a role, understand that you have to appeal to people at a human level. So humanize your content and make sure it's scalable. So when you are building something, I talk about the 7 C's of content all the time. So if you are going to embark on a journey where you want to establish yourself as a credible marketer, you have to speak to people at a human level. Don't talk at people, because I always give this analogy of a very annoying friend. You go and tell them all about your problems, and all they do is tell them all about their problems, and you sit there and go, but you didn't really listen to me. Listen to people, because before you establish what messages you're going to communicate in the market, you should have heard the challenges that people have and address them very clearly. And that's the advice that I would give any marketer. Don't think that you know everything.
Yeah, that's such an important message, isn't it? Because I think it is easy to feel, particularly where you've had success in your career, to feel like you've done it all, you know it all, and that doesn't come from any sort of ego necessarily, but that confidence can creep into complacency, I suppose. And so always realizing that there's more to learn, and particularly marketing, it's changing so rapidly, so quickly, that there are always people around you who can help, guide you and can help extend your knowledge and, make you better. And I think that's an important message. Is there an example that you can share with us that really does demonstrate that ability to take an idea and translate it across the regions and provide that consistency, but also that level of localization? Is there something you can give us some context around?
Yeah, of course. We did a persona building workshop where we tried to understand what the CIOs are looking for, right? And because that's our target audience, we are looking at the IT people responsible for technology who are delivering a business benefit. And one of the top priorities that they had was peer-to-peer networking, because they want to learn from other CIOs what they are doing. Now, in an environment when we actually can't organize networking events face-to-face, we decided to invite some of our customer CIOs who've actually gone through a massive digital transformation initiative to share their story on a webcast. So we approached some of our customers and said, would you like to share your story on a webcast? It's a video and it creates that engagement. And they, we had an overwhelming response from a lot of our customers because that's what they were looking for as well, to tell their story. Right. And so we have created a series of webcasts called CIO Today. So we are reaching out to these CIOs to come in and tell their story, share their journey and their challenges, so that, it's humanizing the content, saying, I'm also human. I also have challenges. I'm not perfect. I didn't just have solutions. Yeah. And I think that's making it an extremely engaging forum.
Yeah, great. And it sounds like what you're actually able to achieve there is this consistency of CIO Today as a platform, inviting CIOs from your customer base across the region. And so they're able to really kind of tell their story that relates with their country, their challenges, their issues that others will resonate with as well. And at the same time, of course, highlight the benefits of partnering with Boomi. So it is a double whammy really in essence, but really kind of driving the power of customer story and the power of humanizing content to do that, and of course using the power of video to extend that. So great job on that.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things is take the time to understand your audience. So these persona profiling workshops are critical. It took us some time to understand the granularity of what each one of the segment audiences was thinking about and what their priorities are. And now we are building campaigns to address those priorities specifically. So if it's peer-to-peer networking, if it's understanding the broad roadmap, then let's provide them with those forums.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess full disclosure, I know we partnered with you on that work, so got a little bit of insider intel, but it is so important to understand the audience. And I think sometimes marketers, and this is particularly relevant at a regional, global level where you've got such distinct audiences, it's not enough to just have a blanket persona group across an international market or a regional market, because there are those discrete differences. But when you do that work, you can actually uncover the commonalities, which is very powerful. And you build a program based on the commonalities, and then you tweak for the differences. And so that's a really powerful message, I think. Great. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. It's been great to have you with us. But before we let you go, it's time for our fun little segment called Skip or Play. And so what we'll do here is we will rattle off a few random pieces of content or content creators, and we'll ask you, Tanya, whether you want to skip or play. Let's see how we go. Are you ready to play, Tanya?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Lady Gaga.
Skip.
The Harry Potter series.
Skip.
True crime podcasts.
Play-ish.
Yeah. Tony Robbins.
Oh, skip.
Ab Fab. Absolutely. Yep. Nigella Lawson.
Oh, play.
Okay, that's it. We've finally got to play. All right, great. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your super busy day. I know you're always in back-to-back, so thank you. Really appreciate your time today and your insights and your advice.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great chatting with you.
For those that want to reach out to you or stay in touch, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I am available on Twitter, so at Tan Mushi, or on LinkedIn, so Tanya Mushtaq.
For everyone else, if you really liked this episode, please do share, like it, add any comments you like in the comment feed, and look out for the next episode, which should drop in about a fortnight. So see you then.